it's great to see that the players are all lining up and knowing how. This is one of those things. I think the owner said it to Kevin Gray after the game against the Bears about, what would you do? What would you do to go get, to put this team? Would you go make a move? And they tried to make a move. They tried to make a trade. The Texans got stubborn. Texans got greedy. And I think okay, what's the next thing you could do? Go get this guy. This guy he's a difference maker. This is a guy that will go get the football.
Missing out on Cooks could be a blessing in disguise because you get a player that maybe fits your quarterback better anyway.
No question. You're absolutely right. Give me a guy that's got the high catch radius, wide catch radius, and a guy that has been there and done that kind of a thing. And I hope they get this guy. I think he can really, really put a lot of pressure. Okay, speaking of putting pressure, you got the Green Bay Packers this weekend. Guys, I was watching their games last night. I think I figured out when this team broke.
Really?
I think I figured it out.
They short-circuited at some point in the middle of a game?
Yeah. I watched the Giants game, the Buffalo game, and the Detroit game. They're 3-1 at the time, and they get a sack. They're up like 17-3.
This is against the Giants?
Against the Giants.
In London?
In London. And all of a sudden, they get a sack, and Rasul Douglas gets a defensive holding penalty.
Ooh.
And it gave the Giants life, and it brought them back in that game.
And it gave the Packers death from the rest of that game and every game since.
Ever since that point on, things have gone just terribly
It'll take
bad.
the life out of you. Remember the Eagles game? There was the big penalty on Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
And I do think it can totally deflate a team.
But I mean, when you're up 17-3.
Yeah.
Like one penalty shouldn't be the backbreaker for you, but it seemed to have been
It went from being a devastating sack on first down to all of a sudden now that you give them life, you give Daniel Jones life and they are able to kind of drive the ball. I'll tell you last week against the Lions, first drive of the game. I mean, they are just moving the ball they hadn't done it all year. Take that back. They hadn't done it since the Giants game. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you a difference too, by the way. Without Randall Cobb, I know this sounds crazy. Randall Cobb was the one guy that he could throw the ball to, and he knew where he was going to be.
Yeah, the trust, the reliability.
Yeah. And I will say this too: when you're defending Sammy Watkins and Romeo Doubs and those guys, and Watson, and those guys, finish the play. All I'm saying is finish the play. These receivers don't secure the ball, and if you're the Cowboys corners, don't just allow them to catch and go with them. Try, knock the ball, fight for the ball. These guys, when it comes to securing the ball to the ground and finishing the play, these receivers don't all have it. And so I don't just be very mindful if you're watching the Cowboys in this game and the secondary is fighting as they're going to the ground. Just keep ripping at it. Because these guys will put it on the ground. I think he's going to throw the ball. The guy, now Sammy Watkins has gotten 17 targets, 10 receptions. I still think it's Alan Lazar that he's going to throw the ball to. But they don't throw the ball down the field. They threw the ball down the field against the Giants when they had Cobb. So that's, something to keep an eye on here.
Did they not take some shots with Lazard against Akuda?
They tried. To me, it was one of those, when I was watching it, I didn't feel like it was like in that Giants game with that first drive, when it was just down the field. Buffalo, I felt like that there weren't really that down the field shots either here. But this team, it's to them, I feel like that their offensive line is healthy, okay? And I mean healthy in a way that David Bakhtiari is back in the lineup at left tackle, but he kind of comes and goes, in and out of the lineup. And then they put in Zach Tom. Zach Tom is a problem for them, number 50. Okay. He could be a little bit of a liability.
We got a 2 first namer on the O-line there.
Zach Tom. Zach Tom is his name. Now, I will say this. Their best running play is the toss sweep. I don't know if you guys have seen the Packers play. All of you watch some games.
Aaron Jones, that's his
Aaron
staple.
Jones, A.J. Dillon. It is a downhill running game, and this is where I think the Cowboys have got to be ready on the edges, because the ball is they're going to just straight downhill run, toss sweeps. That's what they do. That's the way. I mean, every game that I watched, that was a big part of the way they ran the football.
Are you going into this game more fearful of Aaron Jones and the rushing attack than you are Aaron Rodgers? Or is Aaron Rodgers still?
There's something
still have so many
mechanically-
Rodgers nightmares.
I don't know if Aaron Jones. They're saying Aaron Jones is playing. He was in a walking boot after the Lions game. I think you're going to get a heavy dose of A.J. Dillon.
Well, if Aaron Jones doesn't play in this game, it's a huge advantage for the Cowboys. Huge advantage for the Cowboys. Because teams that, we've seen it the last couple of weeks, teams that have these running backs, that these teams that have 2 running backs, and they use them. Now, the Cowboys have managed to win the games, but I just feel like that they're going to get a heavy dose of this outside run. And I don't mean handoff. I mean toss, where you're trying to mash guys and get people out on the edge and see if you're good enough to make tackles. But Aaron Rodgers, to me, looks differently, too. His mechanics have been, the throwing around people and stuff like that. His touch, his accuracy, it doesn't look right. But I don't know if you can count on that in this game. I don't know. I mean, he's looked bad the last 2 games. I watched 3 games. He was fine in the Giants game.
I think it's really messed with his confidence recently. Am I right on that?
It's the way it's funny because he used to throw off balance all the time, and it was just right there, putting the ball right where it needed to be. And I don't see.
There is not a spot with these receivers.
There's none.
No.
There's none. I don't think he has any confidence other than Alan Lazar. I think he's got some confidence in him. I think he's got a little confidence in Watkins. But, man, overall, though, they just don't. When he throws the ball, it's like it's 50-50, where before he's had guys that have gone up and made plays for him. So keep an eye on that, the running game. I think the downhill running game, the toss sweeps will be big in this game for the Packers. They're going to test you with that. Their defense, though, losing Rashawn Gary is going to really hurt them. Now, Preston Smith can rush the passer, but he's not Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary is the one guy that can win consistently off the edge. Kenny Clark at defensive tackle, I think, is a guy that you're going to have to deal with his power. Jaron Reed, I think, plays okay. TJ Slayton is another guy. They've got some big inside guys, but no Rashawn Gary in this game will be really big for the Cowboys. Jair Alexander is their best corner by far. The secondary, other than Alexander, really doesn't tackle all that well from what I saw. Amos, the safety, Savage, the safety, they miss plays in the hole. So if the Cowboys running game gets going, where they're attacking and the safeties are having to come up, these guys will miss some tackles on you. And I mentioned Rasul Douglas, though, as their nickel. Mm-hmm. He's a guy I think you kind of need to maybe go after in this game. Alexander will drop coverage on the other side of the field and kind of guess. So Dak, don't be loose with the football. Make sure you know where everybody is. Throw to the spot, make sure it happens. But if you throw to the side of Alexander, he will drop coverage, make sure that he goes and makes a play there.
Does he travel?
Picked on Douglas before.
He has. The thing about Alexander has traveled before, but that's not Joe Barry's way. Joe Barry, who's the defensive coordinator here, he's one of those guys that he says if you travel, it messes up everybody else's assignments.
Gotcha.
So Alexander will likely play the left side of the field.